afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to be presenting to you guys Chapter 3. The tools of cultural proficiency provide a framework for collaboration. Chapter 3. The intent of this chapter is to help us understand the transforming of school counseling in the cultural proficiency. School counselors must be taught to question the beliefs, assumptions, and values behind inequitable school supply structures or actions by Reese. I like this quote, so I thought it would be nice if I would add it into this chapter. So at the beginning of our chapter, we have a little scenario of some counselors who have attended a training where they were instructed that there would be transforming school counseling initiative. So we have Emilia, Michael, and Diego, who and through their discussion, Emilia starts with, "This is the TSI stuff makes me perfect to me. In fact, I find it something encouraging, the extent to which it aligns with cultural proficiency." We have Michael, "How sad, isn't cultural proficiency for classroom teachers? Seems that TSI CI is geared for counselors." Diego, let me get in there. I think both of you may be correct. Emilia, I have been integrated ever since you returned from the State Teacher Association retreat. Last summer, your Portugal of the benefits of cultural proficiency holds for the entire school integrated to me. But to be honest, I didn't go anymore to learn about it. How do you see it dovetailing with TSCI? Emilia responds, "There are so many concepts that are mutually reinforcing. Relationship building, advocacy, and transformational work are all embedded in TSI and in cultural proficiency." Michael responds, "Well, now I'm confused. Do I know how to learn about cultural proficiency to the job that TSCA seems to what me to do? Seems like an awful lot to add into my plate." Emilia responds, "To be honest, yes, it does require additional effort on our part. However, what is it added learning other ways of viewing and working with our students and their families? For me, cultural proficiency meant learning some things that we could learn new ways and interact with people culturally different from me. But in the long run, it does add the task of my job as a teacher, is it just supports me as I learn how to do it differently." The concept of intentionality is resilient educators and schools intentionally engage in professional development to learn continuously about the diverse communities they serve are differed from ways of teaching and learning assessing. The concept of intentionality prepares you to explore cultural proficiency as the set of tools to serve you as a responsible person in society, as an effective educator, and as a collaborator with other educators. Cultural proficiency is introduced as the following: the process that begins with ourselves, not with students of their communities, an inside-out shift thinking for some educators that move us from viewing students identified underserved as a problematic to viewing them as being understood and needing to be served differently, and embracing and esteeming their capacity to learn, a lens through which we view our role as educators, a set of four interrelated tools to guide our practice. The willingness and ability to examine yourself and your school are fundamental addressing educational gap issues. Self-growth begins with the mastery of four tools of cultural proficiency: assess and change values, behavior, school policies, practices you serve your students, school communities, and society. Transformational commitment to equity without regard of students' cultural memberships. What do we need to learn to be effective? What may be instrumental approaches that work in this study? How can our educator groups advocate equitable distribution resources to schools and greatest needs? In what way can I organize the agendas to focus on being a solution-centered? The guiding principles and the barriers of proficiency. Resistant to change, viewing changes as needed to be done by others, not by oneself. System oppression, acknowledging and recognizing that colorism, racism, sexism, ethnocentrism, and other forms of oppression are real experiences. a sense of privilege, entitlement, awareness, or different benefits that accrue solely by one membership in class, gender, racial, and other cultural groups. Cultural is a predominant force in people's and schools' lives. People are served in varying degrees by the dominant culture. People have group identities and individual identities. Diversity with cultures is of vast significance. Each cultural group has its unique cultural needs. The best of both worlds enhances the capacity of all. The family is identified by each culture and in the primary system of support and education of children. Compliance-based tolerance for diversity and cultural competence. Cultural destructiveness, seeking to eliminate references to the culture of others in all aspects of the school and in the relationship of their communities. Cultural encompasses trivializing other cultures, socioeconomic status, and seeking to make them appear to be wrong. Cultural blindness, pretending not to see or acknowledge the socioeconomic status and culture of others, and choosing to ignore experiences of such groups within the school community. Cultural pre-competence is the key of level development that you and the school can move in positive, constructive directions that you can facilitate, stop, and possibly regress. Cultural competence, manifesting your personal values and behaviors at the school's policies and practices in a manner that is inclusive within the cultures and socioeconomic communities. Cultural proficiency, advocating for lifelong learning for the purpose of being increasingly effective in serving the educational needs. The 5 essential elements of culturally proficient practices: assessing cultural knowledge, learning about the community you serve, how educators and the school react to the community you serve, valuing diversity, creating informal and informal decision-making groups, inclusive of parents, guardians, community members whose viewpoints or experiences are different from yours, and the domain group at the school. Managing dynamics of difference, modeling problem solving and conflict solution strategies. Adapting to diversity, learning about socioeconomic cultural groups, different from your own ability to use other experiences and backgrounds in our school settings. Institutionalizing cultural knowledge, making learning about socioeconomic and cultural groups and their experiences and its perspectives of integral part of the school's professional development.